gamers, and welcome to the podcast. This is the JRPG Report, episode 203. We've got a fun podcast for you guys today. Notice the thumbnail. We are celebrating 25 years of Final Fantasy VII. And, of course, it is more relevant perhaps today than it even was back in 1997 when it launched, January 31st of 1997 in Japan, to be official. That was the 25th anniversary. So we'll look back at, well, not really looking back, but we've got some words from Final Fantasy VII director and remake project producer Yoshinori Kitase and the character designer and remake project creative director Tetsuya Nomura. They shared some messages looking back. They looked back on it, and also a little peek into the future about what Remake has in store. Not much, just a little nugget of information, but we'll get into that along with some other stories that came along today. But it's really fascinating to think about. I don't know, 20-some podcasts ago, we talked about Final Fantasy X being 20 years ago, and I'm sure that made you feel old. Well, this might make you feel even older, that FF VII is 25. So if you look back at it, Final Fantasy is celebrating 35 years this year as well, Final Fantasy I. So in 10 years, they produced 7 games. If you're math, just loose math, that means they then produced 3 games in the next 5 years. And since then, they've produced 4 games in roughly 10 years. So that's not a ton of games. No, I'm sorry, 4 games in 15 years, right? 35, 20, yeah. So they've gotten a little bit longer to produce these games. Obviously, we've had multiple offshoots. It's not been the only thing. There's been sequels, 10-2 and the 13 trilogy. And, of course, monumentally huge games like Final Fantasy XIV still going. We have a word about the ongoing nature of that series today as well. But, they really pumped those smaller ones out quickly. The bigger the games got, as you add in 3D, as you add in voice acting, as you add in that now going to multiple systems, day one, it has complicated things immensely, and still no word on when 16 may. Hopefully we will not be celebrating 40 years of Final Fantasy when we finally get 16. It surely is less time than that. So anyway, on to what both Kitase and Nomura had to say when talking about this 25th anniversary. First, Yoshinori Kitase says, this year marks the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII. It also marks the 35th anniversary of Final Fantasy series itself, which means it was born in the 10th year. Personally, I've always thought of FF VII as a recent game, but it has actually now become one of the games from the, quote, early series. Even so, we were honored last year when it was voted as the 3rd most popular game ever for Japanese TV viewer or a Japanese TV poll. It's pretty remarkable when you talk about across all genres, all games, that FF VII was number 3. That's pretty impressive, I gotta say. He said that we could achieve something like that is very much thanks to the support we have from our fans over the long years. Thank you so much. Final Fantasy VII has reemerged as the latest game in the series once again, with titles like Remake and The First Soldier. You can forward to even more exciting new developments in the future. Nomura added, this, quote, with the 25th anniversary of 7 this year, the game has now existed for a quarter century. I'm truly grateful to all the fans who have loved Final Fantasy VII over these 25 years, and thanks to your support, Cloud has never felt far away over that time. Continuing on with the release of Remake, First Soldier, which is now open for service, And next, we have Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis waiting in the wings too. With all these exciting new projects, I get a release sense. I'm not sure if that's a proper quote. I get a sense of how more and more people are supporting Final Fantasy VII. Now, not just the fans from the original games, but those who have never experienced are being drawn into the unique world. There will be even more Final Fantasy VII projects that started up after the remake coming in the future too. So they've got even bigger plans than even we know about at this time. The team see this 25th anniversary as a waypoint on their journey with the game and will continue pressing ahead to even greater things. So keep supporting us going forward. That's very interesting. Like I said, they point out we know Remake Part 2 is coming. Part 3, Part 4, we don't know how many parts this thing's going to be broken up into. You have already launched the First Soldier little Fortnite type mobile game that's going on. Ever Crisis, we just got the opening movie released for it. You can check that out via our social channels. Not a lot there. I don't know what's going on. It is a Japanese clip. There's no English subtitles for it. And if you are looking for a good laugh, you can turn on the YouTube English subtitles. And they might even make it more confusing than it already is. It is 3 soldiers in a helicopter. The only thing I can glean from it, and because we know with Ever Crisis, it is kind of a whole storytelling of the universe. So my guess is the final thing you see is this Shinra helicopter with soldiers in it going towards islands. One would have to maybe presume that was Wutai, and this is maybe looking back on it, how it kind of all started, the war, and telling that broad of a story. That's my gleam up. You're free to check it out, and if you know Japanese, maybe you know what these soldiers are talking about, but I don't, so I can only infer things. Yeah, so you've got that going on. I'm excited about that game. It looks like it could be a lot of fun. Not really sure what all is going to entail, but it could be kind of big. Here's where it gets a little more interesting. During the First Soldier live stream number 1, both Katase and Nomura were on it as well. This is the quote that's kind of got everybody excited. If you've seen some stories pop up here lately speculating on things, it's because of this quote, and I want to keep this in exact quote so you don't go crazy with it. Katase says, "And as for the FF7 remake news you've been waiting on, I think I'll be able to share more this year. Maybe." And then Nomura kind of jokingly interrupted. He said, "You should probably be more clear about that." So that's kind of a funny exchange. And so Katase continues. This is it. "All right then. Now that the 25th anniversary has begun, I'd like to get the Final Fantasy VII excitement going with everyone over the next year. And so I hope to share more news this year. Please look forward to it." End quote. He looks to share more news this year. I've seen some headlines here and there that we're going to see Remake Part 2 this year. That's not what it said. That'd be great if that's true. But he just said there'd be more news, i.e. we might know what the game is going to entail, how far it's going to go. I mean, this isn't a normal thing. They can kind of tell plot points and stopping points and all that stuff. The game has been out for 25 years, so you're not going to ruin anything by saying, okay, Remake Part 2 is going to go up until, the end of Disc 1 or Disc 2 or Gold Saucer, or whatever points you want to throw out there as that next point. There you go. That's not going to ruin anything. That would be nice to know. But we will, we will learn something this year. I mean, it's too big of a milestone for us not to know. Are we going to see it? Possibly. I think that might depend more on the state of the world and if, let's say, Tokyo Game Show is back to where it used to be and there is that big platform and stage to present it on, that might be a perfect place for it. But we'll have to wait and see if that is indeed what is going to happen with this. Of course, there was a logo, and that was what you saw on today's thumbnail for the podcast. The 25th anniversary logo featuring Zach, Sephiroth, and Cloud in it. A very cool looking logo, to say the least. I like it quite a bit. What I really like is something else that was announced, and I think we're going to get a lot more of these announcements this year as well. Merchandise. What proper franchise is there without merchandise? That's where the real money is, right? But one thing that I definitely want, and if you're seeing the YouTube version of this, you can see the image of it over my shoulder. It is a digital clock buster sword. So the sword is kind of facing down into the ground at the angle, and as you look up the clock, there is the digital time in it. Both materia slots glow as well. I got to have it. It looks too phenomenal not to own. Square Enix was smart and they didn't put a price on it, nor say much more than that it's coming out sometime this year. So obviously it depends on how much this thing costs as to whether or not I'm going to be able to afford it or not. But man, it looks really cool, and I'm excited to see what else they might announce as far as collectible goodies that might come out. But yeah, think back to your favorite memories of Final Fantasy VII, the fact that it's been out this long, and continues to dominate the JRPG world, unlike really any game has, and will continue to, at least for the next few years. In other Final Fantasy news, Square Enix announced the FF XIV letter from producer live. We'll discuss the future of the MMO, in particular the next 10 years. So a roadmap of sorts. This will air on February the 18th. There's all kinds of times going on there, so you'll just need to check wherever you're at. The viewers in Japan can watch the broadcast on the 19th at 11 a.m. Not sure what it's going to be. So I guess that would be the 18th is at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. But yeah, double check that because I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. The broadcast will be held on Twitch, YouTube, and other Japanese streaming platforms. It will feature a Japanese to English interpretation as well. The letter will detail the next 10 years, or at least what developers will potentially have in store for the future. It will be 2 parts. The first part will focus on the game. The second part will be a Q or an A session with the developers. So not quite sure what all is going to be shown and talked about there, but if you are a fan of the game, you will more than likely want to tune in and see what exactly is going on. That is not the only Square Enix news we have, as they were busy this week. Very, very busy. Of course, we talked about last week the launch of Bravely Default Brilliant Lights for mobile platforms in Japan. They announced that registered users has topped 2 million already. Keep in mind, this is Japan only. So that is a lot of their population is playing this game. We talk about some big numbers. That's a big number for just one country. Still no word on if this game is going worldwide or not, but that kind of success certainly tends to lean in more of a favor of going worldwide once they get, obviously they got a lot of translating to do before that happens. In Triangle Strategy news, there was a new trailer. We talk about trailers. We do have to preface that this is actually an English one. So Nintendo did some translation work, and this is the 3rd English character trailer to come out so far. This one focuses on Benedict Pascal, one of the people dedicated to House Wolfert. So there's a lot of characters in this game. A whole lot. It's going to get confusing pretty quickly. The video begins at a hint at his past. A scene refers to what he's about to do as, quote, revenge against myself for being so powerless, end quote. Apparently his incompetence caused something terrible to happen. After that, it mentions how he is a steward for the Wolfert family. He's dedicated to Sereno's success. Later in the video, gameplay with Benedict shows up. And with that, there's a hint about what the future could hold for him. You can check out the link to that article on our Facebook page or our Twitter page. Or if you are subscribed to Nintendo's YouTube channel, you can see that over there. I believe this is the last bit of Square Enix news. Over the past year, I guess since September, you've seen a small dwindling down of Final Fantasy titles on Xbox Game Pass as they make their move over to PlayStation Now because of that deal that was struck back in September. Well, the latest one, after a year on Game Pass, it is leaving. That's Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age. Its last day on the service will be February 15th of 2022. And if you're listening to this on February the 3rd, our release date for the podcast, I don't know if that's enough time to beat the game. Unless you are, you got nothing else to do. That's not a short game. And you might be able to pull it off, but yeah, it's now it'll make its way over to PlayStation Now, so maybe you can transition in that aspect. But yeah, that's just a part of it. It's a business thing. Lots of business going on here in the past few days in the video game world, but we won't get into that so much. One game it's making room for, perhaps, if you want to think about it figuratively speaking, is on February the 10th, day one on Xbox Game Pass. It's a pretty cool caveat that you can now play, or you will be able to play Edge of Eternity day one on Game Pass as it makes its way to consoles finally on February the 10th. So, hey, if you're paying for the service anyway, you might as well enjoy it. We talked a little bit ago about UFO Table making a new animated scene for Tales of Arise. Well, that has come to pass. It is out now. You can see it on our social channels as well. It's a really cool video. It's about 2 minutes long. It's kind of an overview of kind of the beginnings of the game, put into more context. I didn't view it multiple times. I just watched it once. I didn't see any huge spoilers. Maybe one fairly good sized one that you could have guessed at pretty easily, to be quite frank. But yeah, I love the quality of this video, and would have loved to seen it in the game. I think it's a really good game, or at least certain scenes of it are very good and would have fit into the game quite well. It's odd that it came out, 6 months after release, but I don't know. But as far as I know, this doesn't transition to any big announcements. I mean, I do have this next story that Tales of Arise plushies are coming in April. Each one is going to cost about $28.60. They're very cute, also very chibi. So, good thing they're cute. Otherwise, I wouldn't particularly love them. All 6 main characters are getting one, and no word if this is coming outside Japan or not. Of course, if you really want them, you can get your hands on it, no problem. But it's a matter of paying to get it across an ocean or two. If you live far away from Japan, like most of us listening to this podcast do. But yeah, I just thought it's an odd timing, an odd thing to have come out, but it's certainly cool. You might want to check it out if you are getting the itch to play Tales of Arise again, or just want to see some cool animation from UFO Table. Never a bad thing. Coming up this weekend, me and Jake are going to record our next Sunday special. We finally nailed down a good time, so we're going to record on Saturday. And the newest Sunday special will be out for your listening enjoyment on Sunday. We're going to just have a conversation. We'll talk about a few things JRPG related, obviously. I do want to touch on some of the developments that have gone on as far as acquisitions go, what Jake thinks about that, and what it might mean. I don't think it's going to involve JRPGs or really affect us much, but just kind of have a fun conversation. I don't want to be too serious. Just kind of a lighthearted, nerdy chat, and I hope that you guys enjoy. But yeah, check your feeds for a new podcast coming out this Sunday. In other gaming news, if you've been waiting on the Switch version of Neptunia X Shenron Kagura Ninja Wars, you will have to wait until April the 19th in North America or April 22nd in Europe. Publisher Idea Factory International announced. Of course, it's been out on PlayStation since October of last year. Still no word on when that PC release date is going to be. All that they said was that it would be announced at a later date and time. That's odd. I mean, this is nothing unusual for the Switch versions to fall behind and not come out the same day, but usually when it comes out for Switch, it also comes out for PC, but apparently they're not quite ready to commit to that, at least not yet. 2 more months, maybe they can get that thing rounded out in time. But as soon as I hear about that PC date, I will let you know. Speaking of Switch, to say it has been a sales success would be an understatement. It is now up to over 103 million units sold. I think I read that makes it 5th all time as far as systems go. More than 766 million Switch games have been sold worldwide. That's a big number. That's a really, really big number. They also announced that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have topped, they're right just a notch under 14 million units sold. So if you're talking about the best-selling games for the Switch, number 1, Mario Kart. 43 million. That's quite a bit. And coming up in second, very respectable, is Animal Crossing New Horizons at 37 million. I think it's now sold more than Mario 1, making it one of the best selling. Yeah, that's quite a big number. The top JRPG on the list is Pokemon Sword and Shield at nearly 24 million units sold. So quite a big number, to say the least. It's impressive numbers for the Switch, to say the least. It's a really good little system. I don't have to tell you that. The dramatic RPG Heaven Burns Red will launch for iOS and Android devices in Japan on February the 10th. There was a final trailer released for it. Still no word on if this is coming to the West or not. But this is the latest one from WFS Studios. They're the ones that made the Another Eden game that we've talked about off and on here for the last little bit. The one that had the Chrono Cross collaboration. A total of 50 voice actors voice the game's unique characters in a fully voiced studio. Run around high-quality fields and experience the character's priceless everyday life. Exhilarating command battles with simple controls where cooperation between characters is key. Looks like a fairly interesting game. Pretty good graphics for a mobile game. And we'll see if that thing ends up coming to the West or not. There was a good little article, if you've been waiting on the Demon Gaze Extra game. Our friends over at Siliconium produced a good little review for it. You can check that out in our on our media channels. But they say that, just in a word, they say the extra content, the new content in the game, makes a big difference and enhances the overall game quite a bit. This one came out for Switch and PS4. Originally came out for the Vita. So if you've been wanting to check it out, there's a good review for it. You can see if it's worth the extra money for you to bring it home. Got two last stories before we wrap up episode 203 here on the JRPG Report. Will say I finally beat Final Fantasy X the other night. I paid the price of running through the game and not properly leveling up as I went, and it took me a good four or five nights of leveling up, doing some additional side quests at the end until I got the needed abilities and levels, or not levels since there's not levels in the game, but stats in order to finally take down, I guess I won't spoil it by saying, but take down the final bosses there at the end of the game. I did, just for giggles, fire up 10.2 to see how it looked in the enhanced version. Looks very good. I'll commend them for the way it looked, as well as 10. 10 looked phenomenal in every aspect. But yeah, just wasn't wanting to get into that one just yet. I began my backlog purge, and the first one on the list I decided to want to go down is Trials of Mana. I'd played the demo and really enjoyed it, so I knew what I was getting into. You can carry over your save data from the demo, so that saved me a good hour and a half and quite a few levels, so that was kind of nice. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. It, while not very similar to Secret of Mana, very, very different, it's still in that world, and it still has that kind of humor and charm to it. So in a unexpected way, it has a strong nostalgic tie. Even though I've not played this game before, it's back in that world, and there are little things, the character Watts was in it, a dwarf character. I thought that was a cool little nod. The voice acting is pretty darn good for it. I'm enjoying it, and I got to travel by cannon last night, so that brought a big smile to my face and kind of made me feel like a kid. However, they even did it, they still twirled as they were traveling by cannon, and but yeah, I'm having fun. It's not a great game, but it's a pretty darn good game, and I would recommend it, especially if you played Secret of Mana as a kid as much as I did. Last two bits of news. I don't know what to quite make of this, as it's not coming till next year. They announced that there was going to be an anime project based on the Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. They announced this back in March, but it's not coming out this year. The release window has been pushed back until early 2023. Now, this is not just retelling what's going on in the games. This is actually the Northern War, which is talked about quite a bit, and some big events went down, but it never shows much in the games. So this will be a really nice way to see what happened and tie the whole story together. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how me and Jake will chat about just a little bit and see what he thinks. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with this thing. If it looks like the anime that's in the games, or if it kind of has a whole new look, that'd be curious to see as well. But yeah, it's going to be a while before we see this one, not until early 2023. Briefly, last little thing I want to mention is there's a good little sale going on the PSN store right now, Editor's Choice, I believe. Not many JRPGs on it, but I did want to highlight some big ones that I noticed on there. Some pretty significant values to be had. So the deluxe edition of Code Vein is down to just $20. That's a good little chunk off. We talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake. $24 right now. So if at full price it's $60. This is a PS4 version of it. Then you upgrade to get PS5 for free. I believe The deluxe edition is on sale as well, and I don't know about the DLC. I'll have to double check on that one. Sakura Wars is down to just $18. Shin Megami Tensei 3 is down to $27.50. Tales of Arise. It's hard to get this one and pay less than full price. You can get digitally for $42 right now. And I believe all of them are on. So let's just say this right now. Ys 9 Monstrum knocks down to $36. If you've not pitched up Witcher 3, not JRPG, but a great game nonetheless, it's down to just $8. The only ones I can see right now in front of me are Cold Steel 1 and 4. I'm nearly positive all 4 of them are on sale, though. The first 2 are down to just $20. Cold Steel 4 is down to $36. If you have not played these games, now seems like the perfect time to do it. I can't imagine a better time to do it than right now. Okay, here it is. Final Fantasy VII Remake Deluxe, Digital Deluxe Edition, down from $80 to just $32. Or if you want to pick up Remake Integrate, it's down from $70 to $40. The Remake Integrate Digital Deluxe down from $90 to just $50. So, I wanted to pass that along to you guys. I know the one time I went through, and sometimes I go through these sales and there's a lot of numbers thrown at you, and it's too much. It's hard to kind of take in. This one's a lot more concise. And in particular, with Cold Steel being on sale, that doesn't happen a lot. It's a good chance to, if you've been on the fence about it and don't quite know, pick it up on sale and check it out for yourself. Now's the time to do it. And I can't recommend a series more than that. Obviously, it'd be helpful if you were able to go back and play the old games, but like I've said before, I got in on Cold Steel 1. That was my first game in the series, which prompted me to go back and play the old ones, but it kind of stands on its own as well. At least the first 2 games. Then you can go back and play Sky, and in the fall and next spring, you can finally play Crossbell along with the rest of the world. So that's going to do it for episode 203. Like I said, don't forget to check out our Sunday special this weekend. And we'll be back next week with some more fun things to chat about. My name is James Fisher. Thank you so much for tuning in this week and every week. We'll be back at you next time. But until then, get back out there and level up.